good God Almighty, I hope you'll find me.
This is a CYO public service announcement to returning coaches who are having difficulty determining whether or not they are compliant in CYO. The first thing I want you to do is really help yourself, and that is to go to virtusonline.org. And then once you're there, you want to go to your login information, put in your user ID and your password, and sign in. Once you do that, you're going to see this set of squares pop up, and you really want to look at training history. By selecting training history, you're going to see your background and everything that you've completed. And so select training history, and you only have to do the background check once in your lifetime for the diocese. And so that's the fingerprinting, the live scan that some of you, if you're a returning coach, all of you have completed. And so you have to do that. You'll see that there's two here in my window, but you only need to do it once in your lifetime. And I was both a volunteer and an employee for the diocese, so it's a little bit different. But once you see that you've completed that, you want to then move up to online training modules, and you'll see Protecting God's Children Online Awareness Session 4.0. Some of you did 3.0 because the system changed a year or two ago. But what you're going to see is I started it in January and ended it the same day, and that I have a completed Virtus training module, so I'm good till 2028. For any person who has done it in 2022, you're going to need to redo it because it has to be redone every 3 years. And that's an important part of being a CYO coach. So let's just say that you've got your background check and your online training is good, and then you go over to the CYO website at oakdiocese.org, and you look at the ministries, and you scroll down to CYO Sports, where I have listed the 2025 compliant coach list. And this was updated September 10th and will be updated again very shortly. If you select that list and then you search for your name, I'm just going to do a quick edit find, and I'm going to look for my name, and I type it in, and I see there I am. So here I am, here's my parish, and I'm compliant to coach. All right, it's pretty simple, but if you don't see your name pop up, it's usually for a fairly simple reason. And that fairly simple reason is that you've never selected CYO coach as your volunteer role. Of course, down here, when you look at my information, for me, it's going to say employee, but for all of you, it's going to say volunteer. And you also need to be a volunteer CYO coach. And so if you contact your safe environment coordinator, and this is something that the user has to do and can only be done by the user by interacting with the safe environment coordinator, either at the Catholic school where you're attending or at the parish where you're participating. And so contacting the safe environment coordinator via email and asking that person to add CYO coach to your volunteer role. That's the only way for me to know at the diocese whether or not you are actually a CYO coach, because volunteer, there's many different types of volunteers that one goes through when going through Virtus. So please make sure that happens. Now, some coaches may be no longer active in the account. They're not active. The same thing. If you want to come back to coaching because you've been out for a while, your fingerprints are still good, so that's not a problem. What you will need to do is reach out to the Safe Environment Coordinator and ask that coordinator to reactivate your account and assign you a module in Protecting God's Children. And once you complete that module, just like that, you'll be up and ready to go. But please make sure that you also have CYO coach listed as a volunteer role. I hope this information helps all of you who may be struggling to determine whether or not you are compliant in CYO. Thank you so much.